You're listening to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Two fans, two generations, all things Star Wars begins now.
All right, well, hello, everybody. I'm Eric Vansel. And as you can see, Daryl's not with me just yet. So, again, the proverbial technical glitches. It's taking him a little bit of time for his system to come up. So I'm sure he'll come on as soon as he possibly can. But we ended up getting a late start today anyway. And of course, again, I have to apologize to any of you guys who have been following us over the last few weeks, especially in light of a lot of our new subscribers that we have. You know, we always say that we're live every Monday and every Friday at 8 o'clock, and unfortunately, that just hasn't been the case over the past, I don't know, number of weeks. You know, just a lot of things have gotten in the way. Jobs have gotten in the way. There's, you know, my whole family situation is in somewhat of an upheaval right now. So it's been really difficult, actually, to try to get the show out. But usually, like I said, we always try to do a pre-record if we can, you know, in those time slots. And then, obviously, usually, 90% of the time, I would say, maybe not lately, but usually we're live. So I want to thank you guys for sticking by us. I want to thank all the new subscribers, actually, who have joined up. We really appreciate it, and we look forward to, actually, anybody that wants to, if you can catch us, you know, check us out live, because we definitely want your input. We want you to be part of the discussion. I want to welcome Ronaldo here tonight. Ronaldo, thanks for sticking with us, man. I mean, not only have you actually been one of our original, you know, guys that have, ever since we started going live, you've been right there with us. You know, thanks. We appreciate it. And we're glad that you're here with us tonight. So like I said, hopefully Daryl jumps on pretty soon. Yeah, so as you guys know, over the past number of weeks or whatever, we've been talking about visions, Star Wars visions. Now, of course, this is not one of Daryl's favorite Star Wars series of all time. And that's been well documented, well publicized. But both of us would agree that, this season actually has not been too bad. In fact, I dare say that I almost like this season overall. And I see that Daryl is joining us now. Hey, what's going on? You with me?
Hey,
All right.
almost. Give me a sec.
Yeah, it sounds like we still got your... All right. Well, sounds like we got your laptop audio. Look at this, guys. We're producing in real time. Isn't this exciting? And maybe one of these days we'll actually, get on time where we're all set. But anyway, while he's getting his microphone and everything situated, Visions, traditionally, for those of you guys who don't know, Visions is essentially an anime series set in the Star Wars universe. But it's not actually, it's not like one continuous storyline or story arc or anything else. It's actually a bunch of short videos that were done by various anime studios, and they just have their own interpretation of stories in the Star Wars universe. All right, we got you now?
Yep.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Okay, cool. All right, so basically, I didn't really say anything, too crazy. I've just been apologizing for our extremely erratic schedule lately, where if we're on at all, it's not even at the time we're supposed to be on. I mean, it's been crazy. But as you can imagine, Ronaldo's been chatting in, so unlike usual, I think we'll open with some of his chats, maybe to get everything started. So he says, I'm going to guess that this is your favorite episode presumably of the season. He says, it was my favorite. I love Indian culture and how it works with Star Wars. And then, obviously he was making a joke when when you turn your camera off that you went to the dark side, and he was talking about it was an anthology. So, I mean, piggybacking off of that, I will say this. It probably is my favorite episode of the season, actually. And I really did. I mean, everything from the animation to just, the story, the excitement. It was probably the one that actually made the most sense. The villain was really cool. And I agree. India basically has the whole Bollywood thing going, right? So here in the US, there's a lot of their films that are released basically over here, to the point to where I know there's one theater chain around here where they got like 30 screens, and essentially at least 6 or 7 of them are tied up with Bollywood films. So it is a popular movement here, and a lot of the Bollywood stars are also stars over here. And I think that shows, because this studio, tilt your camera down there, man. Your head's like at the bottom of the screen. So essentially, what's interesting to me about this whole thing is the fact that it felt really cinematic. It felt very, I almost literal. There wasn't really a whole lot of symbolism. It's sort of like what you see is what you get. The villain was really cool. He kind of reminded me of like a Sith Lord version of Jafar from Aladdin. And it basically, it almost had that Aladdin vibe actually to it a little bit. There was a little bit of an Ezra vibe, an Aladdin vibe in the main character, Charuk, and his sister that he was trying to protect and everything. So yeah, I mean, overall, I really thought it was cool. And then before turning it over to your comments, Ronaldo accurately, in my opinion, points out this feels totally like a Clone Wars episode, and I would 100% agree with it. So what were your thoughts on this one overall?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it definitely looked like the Clone Wars episode. The animation was phenomenal from this particular house. Um, I think the story was, like you said, it was really straightforward. It was really good. It was easy to understand. You didn't have to guess. I mean, it was down the middle. I really don't really see any flaws in this, honestly. And they honestly kind of had like um, this could have very easily have been like an animated version of the Obi-Wan series, because you have the storyline of,
Yeah.
you know, the Jedi kind of not being able to use their powers, and the Empire is looking for them, and that's kind of the backdrop that you really kind of we find ourselves in this particular episode. Of course, little kid, doesn't want to be obedient and just do what they're told, and of course, it's that whole aspect of it. So now we have to try to corral this child in, but then the old wise lady at the I don't know, I guess this whole little mini city that they had, you know, was cool. She kind of had like an Ahsoka vibe to her in a way, like an old version, an old Indian Ahsoka. That's what she kind of reminded me of.
Yeah.
So it was very familiar beats in this, and I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, and again, I think, echoing those comments, it's always interesting to me how, and this is something that, like you said, I mean, it's beyond really Star Wars. This is the story trope that a lot of people always deal with, right? You have a kid that's traveling with an older brother or sister, and they have to hide a certain element of themselves, or maybe themselves, and you always have the little kid doesn't really understand or doesn't care or is a little bit rebellious, and of course their antics end up getting them in trouble. And that's another thing that's explored here, but like you pointed out, one of the interesting things to me is the fact that it didn't seem as worn out or cliched or any of that stuff as it usually is. Because to be honest, even though, look, I get it from a storytelling perspective, that's a go-to. I mean, let's face it, it's a go-to, it's a tried and true thing. It's a plot device that a lot of films in a lot of genres end up using. everything from action or adventure films, sometimes dramas. Of course, comedies have used this at times to great effect. So I think it's something that you could easily say, okay, if this is not done right, this could actually feel very tired and horrible. But what was interesting about it to me was, in some ways, it actually felt fresh. And it's probably, like you said, it's because of the setting, right? You had the older Indian woman in the village. And, they actually did sort of say the name in the town because the Sith Lord guy kept saying, oh, a Jedi in whatever the town was called.
It kept sounding like he kept saying Jaruk.
Yeah, or something, right. I mean, it was hard to pick up, really, but, and it's probably written down somewhere. We probably could have found it out easily. But again, we're really more concerned about discussing the broader details and a lot of the meanings and the philosophies and all that, rather than a simple breakdown, the episode. I mean, if you guys want to know the name of the town really bad, you can look. But the idea here is to discuss a lot of the themes. And there were so many of them. And yet again, you had another instance of the whole train thing, right? I mean, this is something that we've seen in Solo, and it came up again in the book of, was it the Book of Boba Fett? I think it was, where they actually, the Sand People or whatever.
Yeah. Yep.
So this is something that's been recurring in Star Wars over the last couple of years a lot, where they're doing these almost train heist type of things. And you had that, and once again, it was technology versus a more tribal group. And I thought that was interesting. Another thing that was interesting to note, too, was that the speeder bikes that they were using, I don't recall the actual model number of it, but they were used in Rebels, and they were a model, I think, that was going to be used in The Empire Strikes Back, but it never materialized. It's something like that. And I recognized them immediately, and I thought, oh, well, that's sort of cool that they're utilizing it. And that's something else I think that differs this season also, is the fact that the animation studios here are actually utilizing more legitimate Star Wars stuff. In other words, they're not, trying to use like their own thing or come up with their own stuff like lightsaber umbrellas or something, from season 1. I mean, they're actually trying to utilize things that Disney or Lucasfilm or whatever have already had. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, this character kind of reminded me of the villain kind of reminded me of Moses Ingram's character, like in Obi-Wan. Like I said, it had a very Obi-Wan vibe to it. The whole thing, him watching over his little sister was almost kind of like how Obi-Wan was watching over Leia.
Yeah.
Just it really felt like an episode from Kenobi. But it was fine with me though. Like I said, it's just set in a different locale, a different space. But the animation instantly got my attention because it was very well done. Like you said, it's like Clone Wars, which I definitely got that vibe. And even with the accents, like you could really understand them for the most part and what was going on. And so I really did enjoy this. Like I said, I think this is the most straightforward episode we've ever gotten so far. Like there was no, okay, I wonder what this means, or I wonder where this is. Like it was right in your face, like bam, here it is. So, yeah, I really liked it.
Yeah, I mean, and I thought I could see that. I mean, again, he gave me Jafar vibes, totally. But if I'm going in universe, well, at least in studio, he also reminded me a little bit of the main bad guy in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. There was a little bit of that in there as well. But yeah, I thought that it was really, I mean, there was a lot of elements to this that I thought were really interesting as far as a lot of the things they were trying to achieve. Um, Even going back a little bit to when we first meet them. And again, can't emphasize enough how this completely is the most straightforward of all the episodes. There's no real symbolism. This is a straight up action adventure that you don't have to read into. And there was nothing going on that was surreal in any way. I mean, it was refreshing. Probably the most in the entire series. I don't really recall another episode, even from season 1, that was this straightforward. And there was even some Indiana Jones elements to it too. You know, there was a lot of excitement, I thought, built up into this. And I thought that it was really fascinating how this particular villain that you see pictured with us, we didn't even see him till toward the end of the episode. Because first you had where, like you said, the Empire, right? You had stormtroopers and stuff that were hunting them down. But then when Charuk ended up trying to escape or go whatever, and then she naturally uses her powers because she wants some candy or something. Well, now the other passengers have become a threat. And so now they're somewhat the villain in the story or whatever. So it goes through this almost this metamorphosis to where each stage of villainy is worse, because after that, of course, more of the Empire, and then of course in the end, even before he shows up, you have the townspeople. It's very similar to the train where they hey, you know, you're one of those Jedi people. Yeah, exactly. And so I think that was pretty cool. Ronaldo says, I couldn't find the studio that animated this, just the name 88 Studios. I'm guessing it's from India. Yeah, we said the same thing. I did the same thing. I mean, I tried to do my due diligence today, where in spite of all the chaos that's been going on with both of our work lives and personal lives and stuff, just trying to get everything together, I always every week try to find out the name of the studio and the country of origin, because another thing that I find really fascinating about this season versus last season is the fact that they're really expanding the global influence of all of these different episodes. I mean, you're having things from, you know, obviously you had a British one, you had, you know, of course you did have a Japanese one, but you had like, I think an Australian one or something. I mean, there was, and now you have an Indian one. So it's not just strictly these Japanese anime studios that are making them. And so you're getting this really broad interpretation of the Star Wars universe from a lot of different cultures.
Yeah.
And actually, I think that's a fantastic idea, because it really takes the whole concept of Visions, which was, okay, you're an anime studio within your own culture, wherever it may be. So you have the style, which is anime. You have the culture, which is whatever the country of origin is. And then you have the elements, which are the Star Wars universe. So tell a really cool story set within the Star Wars universe, reflecting your culture and the anime style. And I think that's been done to greater effect in season 2 than season 1. And then Ronaldo says, I wouldn't be surprised if Lucasfilm animated this. I mean, I could see where you would think that. I mean, it looks the closest, I would say, to Lucasfilm animation. And it actually has a little bit of a Disney vibe to it, too. Like some of their more recent Disney animated films. So I could see that. Oh, and here's something that Ronaldo said that would really be cool. He said, I would love an Egyptian-style episode.
That would be cool.
That would be cool. That would be really cool, actually. And I would love to see a Russian themed one. I would love to see, maybe a South American one. Could be
Hmm.
Brazil, could be, Ecuador, it
Or
could be
Caribbean.
Caribbean. Yeah, Central America. Absolutely. I mean, it would be cool to see all the different major regions and see what everybody comes up with. Because again, one of the things about Star Wars that has always made it unique is that it's not tied to any one culture or any one time period or any one storyline or anything like that. I mean, it transcends all that actually. So it would really be cool to see different takes on it. I think anyway. One of some of the funny things that occurred to me during this whole thing too, especially at the end. I don't know if this hit you like this or not, but at the end, when the old woman was basically like opened the pool and said okay, it was kind of like, oh no, not you, Charuk. It's like this is just for her, right? It's kind of like
Right.
okay. I mean, on one hand, I get what she's saying, but on the other hand, I'm like, really, man, you're just gonna like just leave him out in the middle of this like dusty old town during a storm and I don't know. I thought that
Yeah.
was really kind of cold, actually.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I get it. It's kind of like this is her path, and she has to kind of do it without. We all know part of the Jedi thing is letting go of attachments too. We know that's kind of a part of the Jedi culture as well. So that was kind of almost like a symbolic thing of that too. But yeah, I mean, but I did like the fact that I thought the lady had sent the lightsaber up, but it was really that flute. So I thought that was cool. Like that was a nice touch at the very end. Like you still have a piece of me, kind of with you. So
Yeah, that part was cool. It was just I don't know, it just seems to me like yes, the Jedi path lies differently and obviously you have to be separated from them. But and look, he was obviously already somewhat nomadish anyway, right? Cuz I mean, they were just kind of wandering from town to town. I mean, if anything, he might be better off cuz now he doesn't have to worry about her. But
yeah.
he knows she's safe, so he can get into whatever he wants to get into. But I think that what struck me as funny about it, though, is he still needs provisions and probably a place to stay. It's like, at least hook him up with something, like,
Well, I mean, he's like you said, he's very nomadish, and they kind of have this whole bandit thing anyway. So they're kind of used to, like you said, the whole Aladdin thing, just kind of finding what they need on the streets and swindling people out of certain things to get what they need. So I'm sure he'll land on his feet.
well, I mean, yeah. And then honestly, that actually remains to be seen, right? This is the one that I would love to see a sequel. I would actually
Hmm.
enjoy seeing a sequel to this episode. But I think that it was interesting the way that they left it because you could actually see this being sequelized because you really want to know what's going on with her. And, she said, hey, there's others that are like you down here. Okay, well, what are they
Hmm.
like? What's
Yeah.
going on with them? Which order is this? Where does this fit? This is also the first episode that I can legitimately see being a part of the Star Wars universe proper. Like they could almost canonize this one.
Hmm.
Let's see. Ronaldo says, "Gentlemen, you know what we need for next season? A hentai episode."
Oh boy.
Oh boy! Imagine all the incredible lore they could use. Well,
It's not the Lord they'll be using.
yeah, exactly. Ooh, yeah. Um.
I'm sure
Well,
there's a platform where that could be used, if you know what I'm
yeah,
saying.
I'm sure. Yeah, exactly. I don't see that being on Disney Plus somehow.
Yeah, it'd be more on a certain hub, perhaps, but
Yeah, right.
uh,
Exactly. Oh
uh,
man, that was good though. That was good. He goes on to say, I totally need to know what happens after this. And that's
Well,
what I'm saying.
if they had that, the subscribership would go through the roof. I'll tell you that. From
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can't even imagine.
see, Ronaldo's got me started on the dark path already.
Right. Well, I will say this. If they came out with the hentai version of Visions, I wouldn't have to twist your arm to watch or review it.
No, it wouldn't. Never mind. I'm not even gonna make that joke. Let's move on.
Oh. Yeah, actually, that'd be kind of that. I take that back. That would be a little awkward to be reviewing that every week. Our subscribership would go up too.
Oh,
Not just Disney Pluses if we reviewed it. I don't know. We'll have to see. Ronaldo, really?
So you got us thinking about it. That's the problem.
I know. And even worse, you got us talking about it. Look, just accept the fact that we're warming up to Visions. We don't have to go to that next level already. That would be... Yeah, that would actually be kind of... See, that's the problem. It's like now I'm thinking, what would be, where would it take place and how would it be utilized and all that. I'm actually thinking of this from storyline perspectives now. Oh. But yeah, this one definitely felt more organic, I think. And or some of the other... So, what was your favorite scene in this thing?
I'm sorry, thinking about.
All right, go on. I know.
But anyway.
But can you imagine during the hentai? What was your favorite scene? What?
Well, I have.
This whole thing is now completely out of control. It's like we can't even seriously talk about this episode. And what would be the episode titles? Can you imagine that?
Man.
Oh. All right, we'll get it together here, people.
This episode, I think my favorite scene was honestly when they had that whole, when he was just stop doing that, you can't. It was basically when that the guy the little Sith Lord dude showed up and all the plates and everything started floating, and he was just kind of like, hey, you got to chill out. This is not the time to be doing all this. But she's like, it's not me.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, so I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, to me, that was the funniest scene. My favorite scene, it was pretty much related to that, though. It's when the Sith Lord guy actually shows up. He shows up, he's got his troopers with him, and he sits down, and he's talking to them at first. Then he uses the Force to pull the bench
chair
closer or whatever. Yeah, that was... That whole scene and that vibe. I mean, look, the battle was fantastic, too. Let's not discount that. Because a lot of times, and this is something that they've been doing a lot, I noticed in season 2, where they have an episode where somebody's being pursued or somebody's in hiding or something like that, and then it culminates in some lightsaber battle. Almost every episode this season has completely followed that whole path. Even the Spy Dancer, the last episode, which was vastly different. Maybe it was the most different of the episodes since the very first one. But even if you look at that first, kind of weird episode, and then you look at Spy Dancer, it's basically the same thing. There's somebody's pursuing somebody, or somebody's hiding from somebody, and then it ends up being this big lightsaber battle. And don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining about that. I mean, that's actually a really cool thing. It's much better than a lot of what we had to see in season 1. But I think that the way the animation was, the colors and everything, just the style, and almost I don't know how to describe it really. It's kind of like a almost like a bubbly drawing style or something. I mean, it was just really rich animation. Don't get me wrong, the animation in this series, that's the one thing that we would never criticize. From season 1 all the way till now, whether or not you're into the varying styles of animation that they do, they've all been stunning and breathtaking in their own way. It's just this one, I think it was because it was the most straightforward episode and because it was maybe the most Clone Wars like, the animation just really popped out and seemed very cinematic and I don't know, vibrant, I guess would be the word I would use.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I would say the animation has been interesting and cool. Whether, like I said, you like it or not, like there's of course there's some styles that I was like, "Ooh, this is kind of cool," and there's other styles I just don't like. But for that style, it's good. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
Um,
that makes sense. I mean, some styles just aren't going to really land with you. It's just not something you like.
mm,
But you do recognize though that within that style, you're like, okay, well, that is amazing for that.
what it is,
You know.
yeah, for the
But I
most
found
part,
that to be
yes,
the case more with season 1 than 2. I don't know. I
yeah,
pretty
one
much
more than two, definitely. I haven't had a
because
complaint about the animation this season at all,
no,
honestly.
you haven't. In fact, sometimes on the episodes that you really didn't like, the animation was the only thing that you're like, all right, I
Yeah.
hated this episode with a passion, but the animation was stunning. Whereas season 1, yeah, I think that there was a lot of hit and miss where we're like, okay, well, for that style, it's cool, but either you or I or both of us were like, yeah, I just don't like this style of animation. But
Mhm.
this season, though, they've really knocked it out of the park as far as animation goes, and it has been different styles.
Yeah. What would you rate this episode?
Yeah. I mean, I kind of want to give it. You know what? I'm gonna give it a 9. I am. I'm gonna
Okay.
rate it right up there, and the reason why I say that is a couple things. One, I actually forgot I was watching Visions.
Mhm.
That's number one. Number two, it did lend itself to I could see this translating on a film. I mean, I could watch a movie of this. If you put these characters in a Star Wars film or maybe gave me a Disney Plus series on it, I would actually watch it. Even though once again, I mean, much like everything else in Visions, I mean, look, each one of these studios has a shot to make a 15 to 20 minute little short, essentially, like an animated short.
Mhm.
So a lot of times we hammer on these guys for context and all this. They can't really give you a whole lot, I mean, it's because whenever you start talking about things like, oh, a movie or a TV series or something, it's like, yeah, but we don't really know where this it falls and on and all this. It's like, look, yes, they would have to do some setup and a little bit of explanation and stuff like that before they would turn into any of this stuff. I'm just saying that based on what I see in this 18-minute animated short, I would love to maybe see a series based in this world on this cast of characters or beyond. So, yeah, I got to give it a 9. Everything about it was great.
Yeah, I would say the same. I'll give it a 9 as well. It really didn't have any misses for me. The only thing I would say that the reason why I want to give it a 10 is just because there was nothing exceptional about it. Like it was
Right.
like, but if it did something or the story was exceptional, like with a concept I've never seen before, or the animation was done, or something like that, that would give it a 10. But for right now, I would give it a 9.
Mhm. No, I agree. And then Ronaldo in Ronaldo fashion with his odd little numbers, he gives it a 9.9 out of 10. So you got to tell us this then. It's like 1/10 of a point from being a 10, Ronaldo. And you love this series. I mean, you really love this show. You're the reason we're doing this show. So you love this show. What would you have needed to give it a 10? Oh wait, I think he just answered me. I agree. That's why I don't go with a 10. All right, cool. We've seen this story before. And yeah,
Hmm.
you could, I guess, yeah, sure. You can make that argument, right? That this isn't some groundbreaking, this is
Right.
kind of like I pointed out earlier, right? It's a common story trope that, yes, we have seen. It's like, oh, this again. But it is nice to see these things done in a fresh way. And I'm also really happy to see that Vision's vision, I mean, sorry, I had to do it, is more realized now, I think, with this whole season, but especially with this episode. Now, looking on to the next two, because we got 2 more episodes to go, guys. The next one looks like, and of course, since Ronaldo's with us, you got to give us the Ronaldo report. You got to tell us what we're going to think here. I'm going to guess that for me, I'm probably going to like the next episode. I don't know, because again, it really depends on the animation style, the storytelling, and all that stuff. But just based on reading the synopsis, I think I'm going to like the next episode. I'm skeptical about the 9th episode. That one seemed a little weird. And it kind of reminded me, actually, of like that kind of animation that they've been using in some of the, like maybe Moana might be one of the, like one of those Disney films or whatever, where they have that sort of older cartoonish vibes to it. That's, I don't know,
Heavily saturated and
yeah, and I mean, it's definitely a modern cartoon style, but there's a little bit of a throwback. Yeah, I'm having a hard time really articulating it though, but yeah, it just kind of had that vibe to it, and just based on, the plot is something along the lines of, they're in this mine or something, and this kid keeps trying to sing a song, and they're trying to shut him up or whatever. Like that's that's the kind of thing that's starting to remind me of season 1 Visions. Those are the storylines that I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go into it with an open mind. But I'm just saying right now in episode 7, we haven't gotten to 9 yet, but I'm a little unsure. A little uncertain about that one, right? I mean, the next episode sounds like it could be cool, but again, you never know, right? Because you read the synopsis. Look, when you read the synopsis of the first episode, you think that that's just going to be the best episode ever, and that was like the weirdest. I mean, that was the one where I liked it, and I liked all its symbolism and stuff, and you didn't. Actually, I think you hated it, if I remember correctly. I think you actually hated it. You may,
yeah, because they always start off bad.
well, yeah, and we've gotten used to that, right? We're 2 seasons into the show now. It's like, all right, we know right out the gate, the first episode's going to be some weird, bizarro kind of thing that I'll probably apologetically find something to like about it, and you're just going to be like, all right, here we go. Welcome to Visions, everybody. All right,
Right.
Ronaldo says, I think you'll like it. It's a usual story of hopeless slavers looking for freedom. Okay, so it's another common storyline that you see in a lot of films, but Star Wars especially, maybe a little bit more lately. So we'll see. And again, I think that, oh, and then he gives us on 9. I think you'll like 9, not love, but just enjoy it. Okay. Yeah, like 8, especially if that's what it's about. I can see 8 being good. So you guys will have to, tune in next week. It's looking like we should be back on our regular schedule. This Friday, I still really want to do the thing that we were going to try to do the last couple of Fridays. They have been talking about these releases now, these actual Star Wars releases. Like, they're starting to shift things around. I think they canceled, I want to say they canceled the 25 one, but they're putting 2 and 26 or something like that. I don't have to reread it again, but the whole film schedule and just the way things are happening now on the movie side of Lucasfilm is really cool. I wanted to just get into that maybe a little bit Friday. And then, of course, next Monday we will, be reviewing episode 8 of Visions. Ronaldo says, by the way, can I suggest a topic? You know what? For you, because you're the guy that's been with us since probably the beginning, absolutely. But normally, if you guys want to suggest a topic or anything like that, take a look at the buymeacoffee.com link in the description, because we have various packages. If you go high enough, I think like our top package, you can actually be a guest on the show. Like you can co-host it with us or something. But the other ones were suggesting a topic. However, that's basically what that does is it guarantees that your topic will be used. But as I've said in multiple shows over the years now, that we welcome topic suggestions. Leave it in the comments. You could do what Ronaldo's doing, which is leaving it in the chat if you chat live with us. But look, if you guys are watching one of our shows, even one of our older ones, and it spawns a topic idea for you guys, and by all means, just put it in the comments of that show, because we read them all. Okay, so Ronaldo's topic idea. It almost sounds like another segment of the show. He says, what about top 5 directors that would like to direct a Star Wars film? That's actually a good one. Because we have done several of our top 5, top 10. I think we even had a couple of top 20s in there, maybe. I know we've at least had top 10s and some top 5s. I don't know if we ever did directors. So, that might be a cool thing. And 5 is a good number too. The top 5 directors we would like to do. So yeah, we'll probably, not this Friday, obviously, but maybe a week from Friday. Maybe we'll do that one, because that's actually a good one. All right, so as usual, if you guys enjoyed the show, hit that like button. If you haven't yet done so, and you're liking the vibe of this whole thing, and you want to join our little community or whatever, hit the subscribe button. As I previously mentioned, we're not part of the whole super chat and tipping thing yet here. We don't have enough viewers yet, but our viewers may be small but mighty. So hit the subscribe button and check out the link in the description for the Buy Me a Coffee thing. You guys can just throw a couple bucks our way or whatever, or you can subscribe to these little packages and do monthly donations. Or like I said, just keep watching the show. Either way, we'd love to have you guys. All right, so Friday, we're going to take a look at the Star Wars movies. So until then, I'm Eric Vansel.
I'm Daryl Sanders.
May the Force be with you.
Always.
Head to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Be sure to follow us on Twitter @HeadToHeadSW. Submit your questions for our next show. Visit our official website at headtoheadswpodcast.com. Until next time, may the Force be with you, always.